अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। We are very grateful that we got to go through this journey through the all the chapters of Gita, and now today we are at a great mm, at a great place where we are now entering into the last grand finale, the 18th chapter, and befitting the grand finale, uh, all of you have joined today. So, and this is also in many ways termed as the summary of the Bhagavad Gita. So, all of you have attended the previous sessions, but even if you have not, the summary is going to come in this chapter. Yes, Gopinath.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you very much. I am very grateful that I can be here and be a part of this program and this weekly podcast with you. So thank you. And should we first begin with a discussion of what happened last session, Prabhu, or the questions directly?
The last session was, I'll just give you a brief. Last session was on chapter 17, and chapter 17 speaks about the divisions of faith based on the three modes. And from this entire, we discussed that chapter 13 onwards is the appendix of Gita, where all the concepts which were spoken and just the terminology which were thrown in the first 12 chapters, they are explained in detail and the concepts are clarified in detail. So, and especially the 14th chapter, the 17th chapter, and the 18th chapter, they delve into the divisions of everything that we see in this world based on the three modes. There are places in three modes, there are food in three modes, there are faith in three modes. And basically, so that was the bearing of the 17th chapter, the faith in three modes: goodness, passion, ignorance. And so yeah, now let's discuss about chapter 18.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu, for the summary. The first question I have for you today, and I believe that the list of questions that I have for you today are very important, and they're perhaps close to everyone's heart because these questions are something that almost everyone asks at some point in their lives to either practitioners or to the association of Vaishnavas they have. The first question I have for you today, which again is long, but I shall try to read it to you, which is that it is observed that worldly people do their duties, but they become attached and stuck up with petty things, while spiritualists or people with spiritual interests altogether, one can argue they prematurely give up their duties. So is the cause of the so-called spiritualist to give up their worldly duties to escape inconvenience and irresponsibility, as many allege? Or is it really possible for a worldly man or a day-to-day person to practice detachment as a practice every day without losing interest in the execution of his duties.
Okay, so this is the puzzle which Arjuna puts in front of Krishna in the beginning of the 18th chapter, and this is a puzzle which many of us have. That being engaged in this world, it many times it so happens that we get too attached to the designation, the people, the place, um, and the benefits and the facilities that come across with our duties and our roles in this world. And then that attachment, many times, because the world is temporary in nature, and everything in this world, as it builds up, it also has a diminishing journey. So, and then when the time comes to to be rid of, or to be devoid of all of those designations, position, facilities, comforts, people, that time it becomes quite traumatic. And at the same time, when someone is is reveling in all of those facilities and comforts and designation and other things, uh, many times you get stuck up or have argument or conflicts or grudges for petty things, which really, like, you might be sitting on a gold mine, but then you are fighting for a small piece of iron, right? So so people really find very petty things to argue and quarrel about. Yeah, whereas spiritualists, they don't even enter this gold mine or minefield. Hmm. They just they from the distance only, they might appear to be irresponsible and out of escapist. They might appear to be escapist. Ki, you are just afraid of the real struggles of life. So there may be from both sides, there are inadequacies, which are seen from the other side, and then how do we you know reconcile? So that's basically the problem at hand. So what Krishna is telling is, he is recommending detachment from the doership. Krishna is recommending detachment from the fruits of action, but not action itself. So Krishna uses two terminologies, sannyas and tyag, in the answer to Arjuna's question. So just to give you a context, let me read Arjuna's question first, and then we'll discuss the answer of Krishna. Sannyasasya mahabaho tattvamichhami veditum त्यागस्य च ऋषिकेश पृथक् केशी निषूदना. So Arjuna is asking, I wish to understand the purpose of renunciation, tyaga, and of the renounced order of life, sannyasa. O killer of Keshi demon, master of the senses. So he's using the word Keshi Nishudana. So it's quite interesting why Arjuna is using. Krishna has millions of names. Why is he using Keshi Nishudana? So the senses are compared to the horses. Haven't we discussed this analogy of the horses and the chariot? So the senses are compared to the horses, and more often than not, when we engage in worldly duties or worldly activities, these senses, just like wild horses, they they become unharnessed and uncontrolled, and they just go berserk, right? So Arjuna is telling that when I do my worldly duties, that time it becomes such a chaos to handle these horses of the senses. So now other option is, okay, I give up the worldly duties in total. So ना रहेगा बांस ना बजेगी बांसुरी, तो इन घोड़ों को ही मैं किसी काम पे नहीं लगाऊंगा, right? So then maybe that would be a more peaceful situation. So which is better? Yeah. So, and he's saying that Krishna, you are Keshi Nishudana. Even a horse like Keshi, you can control and uh, harness. But we can't harness even a simple horse. And our senses are like these Keshi horse. So you only tell us how to deal with these horses of the senses in the mind. So that is Arjuna's question, and in answer, Krishna, as I said, is recommending detachment for everyone in the society. Hmm? Krishna is recommending detachment not from action but from the fruits of action. Not from action but from the concept of being the doer of action. That kind of a detachment is what Krishna is recommending. And in that sense, detachment is not just a social order or a cloth, it's a mindset, it's a way of life. Yes. So now cleanliness. Tell me, Gopinath, is whose responsibility is cleanliness?
Well, it depends on the person, the place, and the circumstance, Prabhu.
But say in your home, yeah. Um, so you are making some notes, I see, and then that paper is no longer needed. You crumple it and throw it out. So was keeping your room clean your responsibility or the maid's responsibility?
Yes, it was certainly my responsibility first.
Yeah. So maintaining cleanliness and hygiene is everyone's responsibility. Yeah. But then there are some people who are professionals in cleanliness and hygiene, right? That's the work that they do. Hmm? So similarly, detachment is everyone's responsibility. Hmm? But some people, they might be flag bearers, so to speak, of detachment, of renunciation, and reinforce the idea of how it is important to let go in life. Because anyways, at certain point of time in our life, we have to let go of everything. So why not start practicing it from the beginning? Hmm? And letting go makes life more easier. So yeah, so there are just as there are cleanliness workers, there are um, renunciants who have the role of teaching spiritual principles, but then that spiritual principles and spiritual ethos and living by them is responsibility of everyone. Yes. So that is the idea being recommended. And then Krishna is saying that uh, okay, so then someone may ask, okay, so you said everyone is supposed to perform their duties but be detached. So what in the case of a sannyasi or a renunciant? Is a renunciant uh, having some exemption from performing actions? So then Krishna says no. Even a renunciant is supposed to perform yajna, dana, and tapa. Yajna, dana, tapa, karma, pavanani, manishinam. Yajna, dana, tapa, karma, na tyajyam. So never give up. Even if you are in the renounced order, one is not supposed to give up certain actions of yajna, dana, and tapa. Yeah. So, but the fruits of action, everyone is supposed to give up, whether a renunciant or a common man. Everyone is supposed to let go of the fruits of action, offer those fruits to the Lord, let go of the conception of being the doer, being the achiever, and realize that it is all coming from the Lord. So, uh, so that's what Krishna is telling. And uh, talking of activities, uh, yajna, dana, and tapa. Actually, there are 5 types of activities, 5 types of karmas described in the Manusamhita in the Vedas. They are the nitya karmas, which are routine activities. right from taking bath and doing your Sandhya Vandana, etc. Right? Worshipping the Lord. So these are Nitya karmas. Naimittika karma are those which are occasional activities. For example, Atithi Devo Bhava. An Atithi comes to your house. It's a it's a sporadic activity. Once in a while, an Atithi comes to your house, and that's your duty to take care of the Atithi, right? So that is a part of Naimittika karma. Then there is Prayashchita karma. Okay, in course of your living, if you performed a sin or if you uh, did something wrong, then to atone for that is prayashchit. That is the third type of activity. The fourth type of activity is called kamya karmas. Hmm? Kamya karma, rest all the first three activities which are described, they are duties. Hmm? But kamya karmas are those which I do to attain or fulfill my desires. I have a particular desire. So to fulfill that desire, the Vedas have enjoined certain karmas. Putra kameshthi yagya. If to attain a son, there is a yagya which is described. To attain a kingdom, there is Ashwamedha yagya. Right? So there are kamya karmas. And then there is the nishiddha karma. Nishiddha karma, which are forbidden activities. No meeting, no meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling. So what the scriptures describe, the first three activities, they are applicable for everyone. The Nitya karmas, the Naimittika karmas, and the Prayashchit karmas. But Kamya karma is only for the someone who wants certain desires to be fulfilled. Yeah. Uh, and especially a renunciant is not supposed to do Kamya karmas. Hmm? So then what are these duties which I talk of in terms of Nitya and Naimittika karma? So the most important ones are Yagya, Dana, and Tapa. There are 5 types of Yagyas. Again, these 5 types of Yagyas, now what is Yagya? Yagya means sacrifice. So why do we perform sacrifice? So the scriptures describe that just by taking birth in this world, just by breathing in this world, we incur 5 types of debts. Dev rin, Rishi rin, Bhut rin, and then Nrinam rin and Pitri rin. So these are 5 types of debts which one incurs just by dint of taking birth and breathing in this world. So what is Deva rin? Deva rin is basically the gifts, the bounty that we get from God and through His agents. You know, the devatas, the bounty we get in through the nature, the food to eat, the water to drink, the air to breathe. Now we pay taxes to the government for so that the government can supply us, road, electrical power supply, transportation, all of those things, right? So as the government can supply those facilities, we need to pay taxes. But have you ever paid taxes for the universal government's provisions for our comforts and facilities, such as food, water, air, the body that we have, the eyesight that we have, the sense of smell that we have, the sense of taste that we have? So these are all gifts of God. Do we pay taxes for that? If we don't, then we are in debt. Then IT का रेड पड़ेगा किसी दिन, right? Agar if you are too much in debt, then if you are not paying your taxes in time, then one day the IT department raids. So similarly, if you are just taking from nature, from God, and not reciprocating, not acknowledging the gifts that we receive, then IT ka raid. Then there will be we will have to pay for it. So therefore, the scripture described, don't be a debtor, repay or at least reciprocate. So this is the Devarin. Then Rishi Rin, okay, what is the Rin? Rishi Rin is Rin towards the givers of knowledge, especially givers of spiritual knowledge, because knowledge is the greatest empowerment. Mm. And those sages who have provided us these vast volumes of literatures which help us understand what to do and what not to do. So to liquidate that debt is basically to perform Rishi Yagya, which means to read the scriptures given by these rishis. And then there is Pitru Rin from our ancestors, from our parents. Yeah, we incur a lot of debt from the sacrifice, numerous sacrifices which our parents have done to raise us. Which, okay, I have debt because of the sacrifices done by my parents, but I also have debt from my grandparents. Because if my grandparents didn't raise my parents, they won't be able to raise me. Yes. So I'm also indebted to my grandparents. Then I'm also indebted to my great grandparents, great great grandparents, and that's the Pitrin, the ancestry or lineage in which we are coming. We are also indebted to them for all the for our life. So therefore there are Pitra Yagya, or basically we in the scriptures it is described that you actually mm, perform Shraddha ceremony, yeah, every year. Basically offer Vishnu Prasad to your deceased ancestors to liberate them. Hmm? So that is a Pitrarin. Then there is Bhutarin. Bhut means all living entities. Now see the sensitivity of the Vedic culture, that we recognize and acknowledge that in the course of our living, we cause violence and harm to so many other living entities. The food that we eat is of course obtained by the grace of God, but then in the process of agriculture, there are so many rodents or serpents or birds which might be harmed. Nowadays there's such uh, massive use of fertilizers and pesticides which actually causes damage to the ecosystem. So, and all of these living entities which we have caused harm to, we are indebted, and therefore there is bhutarin. And how do we liquidate that? By actually feeding the cow, by the pehli roti gai ki, aakhri roti kutte ki. That's what they used to do in the previous times. Show compassion to other living entities. And then there is nirrin. So the rin or the debt to other humans. So in the course of our living, we should also realize that so many people contribute to our um, functional lifestyle. There is the dudwala, there is a sanitation worker, there is there is the sabji wala. So many people are contributing, they are doing their hard work, and you may say मैं तो पैसे दे दिया, but no, money cannot actually repay labor. There's no excuse for not being grateful, because hard labor cannot be repaid. So someone brings a sack of uh, vegetables for you. You may say मैंने उसको 50 रुपए दे दिया ना, हो गया ना. No, he did that menial task of lifting that and bringing that to you. You got to be grateful, and therefore doing charity for people in general, for the poor, for the needy, that's also a part of, that's also a yagya, a sacrifice. So therefore Krishna is saying that these types of yagyas are to be performed by everyone uh, as a matter of duty. Then there is dana, which has to be done. Dana means charity has to be given. So and then tapa is done, austerity is done to purify one's own body and mind. So to purify our adi daivik existence, there is yagya. To purify our adi bhautik existence, there is dana. and purify our adhyatmic existence, our body and mind, there is tapa. So Krishna is saying that everyone is supposed to perform yajna, dana, and tapa, not for the sake of attaining piety or attaining some good prosperity, but as a matter of repaying, as a matter of gratitude, and without any result or any fruit, and desire for any fruit. Yeah. So, and then finally, talking of renunciation as in social order. So it may appear that a renunciant is someone who has taken to a renounced order, or uh, that person maybe is running away from the responsibilities. But you see, for a higher responsibility, a lesser responsibility can be sacrificed. For example, a soldier, when he gives up the comfort of his home, gives up the nice camaraderie with his friends in the village, or his loving parents and family, to go and stand on the border, the nation celebrates that sacrifice because that's a higher responsibility, and everyone acknowledges that. So similarly, the responsibility of upholding the culture and tradition and spiritual knowledge, to uphold that responsibility, the intermediate responsibilities can be like sacrificed minimally, as less as possible. So that sensitivity has to be there, but so that's the idea. So it's but renunciation should not be done in the mood of running away. So there's a difference between walking away from something and running away from something. When you walk away from something, your eyes are set on a, an aspiration and a purpose ahead of you. When you are running away from something, your eyes are set on the fear and the pain of the past. So renunciation should be done in the mood of walking away from material life, not running away from material life. So that's the summary of the discussion on action and renunciation.
Thank you, Prabhu. I think it's quite amazing how you've summarized so succulently, I think, this understanding of, and I think especially the last point you said, I can completely relate to as a student, because I think because of our own personal immaturities, we tend to, as you said, run away from responsibilities, perhaps not in the right consciousness of tyaga or renunciation, but just to not face the uh, do our duty and face the consequences of our actions. And I think when he said that, I remembered a quote by Radhanath Swami Maharaj when he said that if you can live under a tree, if you're living under a tree, and if you can serve better in a palace, then it is Maya to be living under a tree. But if you're living in a palace and you can serve better living simply under a tree, then you're in Maya if you're living in the palace. So I think.
Beautifully said, Gopinath.
Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you. Beautifully said.
Thank you, Prabhu. We often, and this I think is a nice preface to the next question, which is that some people in their lives find, again, this is a Japanese word, if you might have heard of it, Prabhu. It's called ikigai, which is the intersection of all your desires and the reason to wake up every day. And we have stalwarts from ISKCON, especially the Radha Gopinath temple. Vaishnav Seva Prabhu comes to mind because he does something. Television is something that is so critically not, how do I say, source of the television creates illusion, but to use that as a means to spread
knowledge
is amazing. And Rasraj Prabhu also comes to mind, who is a PhD in quantum physics, and the tendency is to be intellectually so-called caught up in the atheistic scientism, but he's using that as a lifelong project to again serve the movement. But apart from these few stalwart Vaishnavas, we find that for ourselves, that whenever we do a particular action, that ego never goes of being the doer of the action. And naturally, in the flow, in the mode of ignorance, we find that our false ego expands and expands, and we create unpleasant and obnoxious situations for ourselves at work and at home. So, how do we get rid of that ego and that attitude of doership?
ego, let it go. Yeah, so ego is a small word which makes big wars, big conflicts, big difficulties. So how do we deal with our ego and that of others? Yeah. So this is what Krishna will be talking of in the further section, next section, the 18th chapter. In the first section, we discussed, he talked about renunciation in mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Renunciation and goodness is focused on doing the duty, but being detached from the fruits of action and the doership. So, mode of passion is attached to the fruits of action, one's actions. And so the question is, how do I be detached from the sense of being a doer of one's action? So to bring one to the point of being detached from the sense of being a doer, Krishna in the next section, from verse number 13 onwards, he speaks the science of 5 doers. 13 to 17, he speaks the science of 5 doers. He says, Adhishthanam tatha kartha karyam cha prathagvida. He says further, vividasya pratak cheshta daivam cha evatra panchamam. So he says adhishthanam. These are like basically speaks of 5 doers of any action. Anyone who is doing any action, or you should know that there is not one doer, there are 5 doers. So that's quite interesting. We often claim that I have done this, I should get the credit. But Krishna is saying, no, there are 5 people who have accomplished it. What? Oh, I was the one who submitted this report, and I should be acclaimed. I was the one who did this particular project. I should be given the limelight. Whatever. Krishna is saying, no, you are just one of the 5, and probably the least important of the 5. What? So my contribution wasn't that important? Yeah, you did something, but you are just one of the 5 factors which produce any result. Okay, really? So then Krishna is telling that there are 5 factors of success for any work. There are 5 doers. Adhishthanam is the place of work, where the work is being done. And Adhishthanam is also the coordinates, the place and the time. That's important. Then there is Karanam. Karanam means instruments. What kind of instruments were used? Then there is Cheshta, or endeavor. What intensity of endeavor was performed? And then there is Karta, the doer, which is you and me. But wait, there's the 5th element, Daivam, the Lord, Paramatma, Krishna. So for behind success of any action, there are these 5 principles, 5 factors. तो थोड़ा सा abstract लग रहा होगा, तो कुछ मैं एक example दे देता हूँ. So talking about cricket. There are only two examples which click with everyone: food and cricket. So let's go with cricket. Now, when you are in terms of cricket, is pitch important? What do you think, Gopinath?
Yes, I think it's if you look at any of the expert professional and analysts, especially the commentators, I think they spend I think there's even research being done as to and especially if your team loses, you always blame it on the pitch.
Yeah, we didn't lose. The pitch made us lose. The pitch ही ऐसा था. So, and pitches and some pitch, it yields a score of 400 very easily. And some pitch, the entire team is bundled up. The same team which scored 400 on another pitch is bundled up for under 100. Huh? So what? So are we the doers? No, the pitch, the place where the match was played, that's also important. Hmm? And then, okay, place, the pitch is important, but the place, वो home advantage बोलते हैं ना. When India is now we India World Cup में, okay, it reached the finals because home advantage was of course there, but final में हार गए, right? There might other factors involved, but home advantage helps. Yeah. So place is important. Time is also important. When you have the right uh, timing, so, some things you keep trying for years and years, you don't get success, and the right time comes, हो जाता है, right? कोई इन्फ्लुएंसर बनने का प्रयास कर रहा है, 1000 वीडियो निकाल लिए, एक वीडियो ऐसा आया है ना, that person didn't even put effort, and that video caught attention, and then the person becomes a celebrity. So time, right? So place is important, time is important, which is both adhishthanam. Then there is karanam, instrument. Again, back to cricket. So every batsman has a branded bat. Tendulkar ka MRF bat, like hallmark. So the kind of bat that you use, and they are very particular about the kind of tree from which it is taken. So the instrument is important, and for a bowler, ball is very important. Hmm? So previously, they since the time there is a new rule of changing the ball twice in a match, like like after 25 overs in an ODI, you are supposed to change the ball. So the bowlers have lost the cutting edge of using reverse swing, and therefore batsmen are able to score more. So instrument बदल गया, तो bowlers का, they are best of bowlers, but they are not so effective. भैया इंस्ट्रूमेंट की बहुत महत्व है. Yeah. So instrument, and then there is endeavor. The same batsman, अरे वो इतना अच्छा बैट्समैन था, क्या हो गया उसको? अरे वो फॉर्म में नहीं है. He is not in form. He is not able to put up that same style and the same form which he used to do. So फॉर्म में नहीं है, तो although he is the same person, but endeavor अभी उस लेवल पे नहीं हो पा रहा है, right? So therefore all these factors are there, and then there is doer. Yeah. So different person, different results, but then all of these are subliminal factors. The overarching factor is God, Daiva, Eva Atra Panchamam. So now this is very interesting, the figure 5, the number 5. How many fingers do we have in the hand?
5 fingers.
Yes, 5 fingers. And which do you think is the most important finger? The the little finger, or the middle fingers, or the index finger, or which finger is important, most important, or the thumb?
Perhaps the index finger or the thumb.
Okay, I'll ask everyone, if you want to do an experiment, of writing without the index finger. you can write. Can you write without the thumb? Is it possible to write without using the thumb? You hold the pen in between your two fingers. It's very difficult. Very difficult. You can, but it's difficult. But if you have the thumb and you can then use any of the four fingers. एक बार आपके पास thumb है, you have freedom to use the thumb, then any of the four other fingers will help you do the needful and write. But the thumb is most critical. Similarly about eating food. So you have all the four other fingers, खा के दिखाओ. Right? The Indian way especially. You can't eat without a thumb. But अगर thumb है और बाकी दो fingers को, तीन fingers को भी नहीं use करना, you can still eat. Right? So the fifth factor, the thumb, is the most important. बाकी सब नहीं रहेगा तो भी चलेगा. Daiva will pull it through. But if Daiva is not there, then however much endeavor you do, however skillful a batsman you are, however good the pitch is, however great the bat is, nothing will work if it is not destined, right? So Daiva is very important. So these are there. So therefore, Krishna is actually humbling us, telling us that don't be, it's good to have a sense of accomplishment and achievement and a sense of self-worth, but don't be overly proud. Don't blow it out of proportions. Don't overestimate your glory. You were just one of those five factors who got the results, right? And tomorrow it could be someone else. You are not going to be the one getting the result always. Sachin Tendulkar made such records, but now one after another his records are being broken. So you can't bask in that glory forever. Even if you did something which was legendary, that legendary work is either going to be surpassed or going to be forgotten. So therefore, Krishna is humbling us down that there are more factors to the results than what you see. There's more to it than what meets the eye. Yeah, so this is Krishna's response to make us low key.
Thank you, Prabhu. I think the Divya Gyan of the Gita, it always hits home with the examples in the cricket. I think it always, as you said, for Indians especially, it strikes the right chords. And yes, I remember even reading somewhere that there's a thought experiment where if Bill Gates were born in China during the time of the Cultural Revolution, where practically they were eating dirt to stay alive by the millions, he wouldn't have been.
Yeah, he would not have been the Bill Gates that we know. He might not have the money to pay his bills.
Exactly. And if his parents weren't in a very prosperous suburban cul-de-sac, he wouldn't have received the education, the emotional love and maturity and care to end up creating an organization and handling so many people. So even in a mundane
send me that example.
Huh?
Do send me that research.
Yes, I will send you the research, Prabhu. And I think even in a mundane way, we can recognize that there is a need to be humble. But if we look at it through the framework of the Gita, I think there is this understanding is sustainable, long-lasting, and I think it has the ability to, as you said, to help us get rid of the three-letter word. Thank you for your answer. And
what more you have today?
The next question, perhaps can we take two questions today, Prabhu? Or
let's see how we go.
Okay, Prabhu. In today's world, you might be, again, especially to be young, 16, 18, 19, 20. This world is a everyone has mobile data, everyone has phones, and it is really the golden age of distraction, just in terms of the schools of thought, the amount of information, the access to information that a person has as to different philosophies. I think Ramakrishna Mission has the term Jatomat Tatopat, you know. So you've got so many variegated schools, and in this pluralistic world, you can say that it's actually fine that everyone has the freedom to create their own philosophy and their own way of looking at things. So why do you insist on the dogma or the cult of the Gita when in this world that it's actually quite wonderful that we have so many people coming up with their own philosophies and own concoctions. So why do you, Prabhu, insist on the Gita philosophy over any other?
Because truth is one. Hmm. So there can be many lies, but the truth stands strong as the one truth, the absolute truth. So therefore, many people may speculate and cook up their own philosophies, but then a philosophy is judged through its consequences, just as a fruit is judged through the tree is judged through its fruits. So every philosophy is judged through the consequences that philosophy brings about. Hmm. And then it's for us to decide, do we want such a fruit for ourselves and for the society? If no, let's scrap that philosophy. Hmm. So what Krishna says in the 18th verse of the 18th chapter, I'll read out to you. So remember, the discussion that is going on is about action, is about detached action, right? How to perform one's action in the right way. Hmm. So, and to be able to understand that, Krishna is speaking this in the 18th verse. Jnanam Gyayam Parigyata Trividha Karma Chodana Karanam Karma Karteti Trividha Karma Sangraha. Knowledge, object of knowledge, and knower are the three factors that motivate action. The senses, the work, and the doer are the three constituents of action. But for us, the first line is very relevant. Knowledge, object of knowledge, and the knower are the three factors that motivate action. So we want to perform mature detached action, right? But in order to for us to perform that mature detached action, we should have mature detached knowledge, mature philosophy. If we have a speculative concocted philosophy, our actions will also be destructive or time wasting in nature, right? So therefore Krishna is actually revealing in the verse 18th to 22nd that what are the knowledge in three modes, and corresponding to each of these knowledge is a type of action. Action in mode of goodness comes from knowledge in mode of goodness. Action in mode of passion comes from knowledge in mode of passion, and action in mode of ignorance comes from knowledge in mode of ignorance. So if our philosophy is in mode of ignorance, we cannot expect the society to act in mode of goodness. We have so much hue and cry, we have so much complaints about the increase in the crimes. We have so much hue and cry about mm, the the breaking families, the breaking of families. Um, we have so much of unrest about corruption in the society. There's so much unrest about the violence and hatred in the society. Yes, these are things which we are bothered and concerned about. So we would as well do good to trace what is the origin of all of these kind um, actions of violence, of hatred, of discrimination, of corruption. The source is a faulty philosophy. These kind of actions and mode of ignorance or passion, they can't come from a philosophy of goodness. They come from a philosophy of passion and ignorance. And therefore, Krishna describes three types of philosophies in these three verses. In the 19th verse, he says, the knowledge and mode of goodness arises from the scriptures. Knowledge of mode of passion arises from mental speculation. And knowledge and mode of ignorance arises from one's vasanas or desire for sense gratification. So, knowledge and mode of goodness helps one see that every living entity is a spirit soul, helps one see the common underlying principle of spiritual reality in every aspect of existence, helps one see the 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 unity of all living entities as their identity as spirit souls, parts of God. That is the mode of goodness philosophy or mode of goodness knowledge. The mode of passion knowledge or philosophy is that which sees the differences, the various types of isms, the communism, the capitalism, the the nationalism, where I see, okay, this person is different, that person is different from my species or my race or my gender. So you see diversity and you divide the world and you want to compete. So that's the philosophy or mindset of passion. And there are different theories. The modern Charvaks, such as Darwin, or you have Karl Marx, or you have so many others, the Freudian philosophy. So all of these have created philosophies, so many isms which divide the world, which see people as bodies, not as soul. When you see people as soul, you don't discriminate, you don't divide. But when you see people as bodies, bodies are divided, bodies are different. The soul is a common factor. When you deny the soul and just see the body, you have just differences and competition. And then there is survival of the fittest philosophy, where you just have cutthroat competition to thrive and survive. Mode of ignorance philosophy is about, just you only live once. Joe, whatever pleasure you want to squeeze out, squeeze it out. So, and that leads to corruption. That leads to a lack of honesty, integrity, morality in the society, depravity. It creates depravity and all of those things. So, therefore, now the choice is ours that what kind of consequences we want in the society, and accordingly we choose the philosophy of Gita or the philosophy of Cheetah. The tiger's philosophy to kill and eat, or the Gita's philosophy to see the unity and harmony. So let's take one more question, Prabhu, and then we'll see if there are audience questions.
Thank you, Prabhu, for your wonderful and beautiful response to this question. The last question I have for you today is that as a room conversation with His Divine Grace states that we are not into wine table Vedanta, where you discuss philosophy simply at the level of intellectual entertainment or a serious lack of application. But we find ourselves doing the same, where we actually do not have the determination to act on the rigor and accept what is offered to us and be a patra and then giving it to others is again one step away, but even applying it in our own lives with determination is something that uh, every sadhaka struggles with. So, how do we develop the determination to apply the principles of the Gita and to apply what we've learned from living Gitas too?
Okay, so the mm, the the concept of determination is covered. The theme of determination is covered in the verse 26. Actually, verse 33rd to 35th verse of this chapter. Krishna is talking about determination in three modes. And let me read the 33rd verse for you, which talks about determination in mode of goodness. So, first of all, what is determination? Determination is the ability to regulate and direct one's mind and senses, yeah, towards a particular goal. Hmm? What is determination? The ability to regulate one's mind and senses to attain a particular goal. And each of the three modes have different goals, and different types of determination. So, mode of goodness determination, Krishna describes as धृत्या यया धारयते mana pranendriya kriya yogen avyabhyacharinya dhriti sa partha satviki. धृत्या यया धारयते, which means that determination, determination is called dhriti in Sanskrit. Dhriti means dharan karna. Say suppose I take this pot. And now, say suppose this pot is made up of metal, and it has some heavy stones in it. It's heavy. So if I give it to a child, there are chances that it will slip from the child's hand. Yes, or he won't be able to hold it for long, right? But now, but I am able to effortlessly hold it, right? And even if I am going in a train, right, I can hold it. Say, suppose now this pot has some milk in it, yes, and it has tendency to spill. But if I hold it quite tightly and properly and maneuver it properly, I will be able to walk and still not allow any drop to spill out. Because dhritya, I have the ability to hold it tightly. Yeah. So the ability to hold one's mind and one's senses to attain a particular goal is called dhriti or determination. Yeah. Because the mind and senses are the instruments by which you achieve anything. Right? Say the batsman, if the batsman is not able to hold the bat properly, say suppose his finger is fractured, will he be able to score runs? Will he able to time his shots properly? No, because dhritya, the instrument is not being held properly, right? So the instrument that we have is our mind and our senses. Anything that we do is through our mind and our senses. And if we can't hold our mind and senses, if we can't grasp and maneuver our mind and senses in the proper direction, then we can't achieve anything in life, right? So Krishna speaks about determination and mode of goodness. Mode of goodness determination is the best determination, where one has a very comfortable and mm, strong grip over one's mind and senses. Uh, what is the purpose of that grip? Yogena avyabhicharinya. Very interesting. Yoga means connection with the Lord, and avyabhicharinya means without any deviation. So someone who has determination and mode of goodness can, while chanting, while reading, while hearing, while doing any spiritual activity, have laser focus. He won't allow his mind and senses to slip on to other topics. He will be just in the state of samadhi, a state where he is completely in union with the Lord. Right? So that is determination in mode of goodness. Determination in mode of passion is by nature because it is falakankshi. The purpose and the aspiration of determination and goodness is yoga avibhicharini, to have uninterrupted union with the Lord. The determination in passion is born out of desire for fruits. Dhanam dehi, janam dehi, all of these things. I want wealth, women, facilities, money, all of those things. So by default, by nature, it is falakankshi. And a person who is falakankshi is always unsteady, cannot be focused. Because Krishna says, Bhog Aishwarya Prasaktanam Taya Aparita Chetasam. Atmika Buddhi Samadhav Na Vidyate. He cannot be focused because the senses are pulling him for various desires. Right? And therefore, the person is having a trembling of one's mind and senses, or a vacillation of mind and senses. You don't have the grip. The grip is loose because your purpose and aspiration is sense enjoyment or fruitive enjoyment. And the activities which what do you hold on in mode of passion? You hold on to dharma, artha, and kam. In mode of goodness, you hold on to your mind and senses, but in dharma, in passion, you hold on to the activities of dharma, artha, and kam. Yeah, and that grip is not quite strong. And what about mode of ignorance? A person in mode of ignorance is also very determined, but determined to not be determined. Determined to sleep, to procrastinate, to be lazy, to be morose, to be deluded. He's determined even if you throw light, even if you throw a bucket of water, even if you ring 5 alarms together, that person is so determined he is not going to wake up. That's also determination. That sort of determination is a determination in mode of ignorance, which is a determination to sink into the abyss of ignorance. Right? So there are the person in goodness is also determined, passion is also determined, and ignorance is also determined. We need to choose what kind of determination we want. And from the description that I gave, I'm sure we want to choose the mode of goodness determination. And then Krishna says in the previous verses that mode of goodness determination comes from mode of goodness intelligence. And mode of goodness, because determination is a function of the intelligence. And where does intelligence, mode of goodness intelligence come from? It comes from the scriptures. Yes. So Krishna says that when you um, put yourself in scriptural study, then what happens? You develop scriptural intelligence, and that scriptural intelligence give you the mode of goodness determination, which helps you to be focused and achieve your purpose, right? Whereas mode of passion is characterized by vacillation. Vacillations of I want this, I don't want this, and by default a vacillating person can't be determined, right? And mode of passion intelligence comes from speculation, right? So we need our intelligence to be uh, uh, properly rooted in scriptures, not in speculation. Otherwise it will be susceptible to the swings of desires. So yes, study of scriptures is the way to develop intelligence, spiritual intelligence, and spiritual intelligence will give us mode of goodness determination, and that's the determination which will help us attain samadhi. So yes, Prabhu, this is what we had to share on this last question, and then if our esteemed audience wants to discuss more on something or share their thoughts, they're welcome.
You can also use the chat box to respond in right.
So in case there's there are no thoughts or no questions, then we will conclude today's session, and we have 30 odd verses more to go now from here, and which we'll cover in the last session of our Gita for You podcast, which we'll bring to you next week, hopefully, and hope to see you for that session as well. And very grateful again for joining us for this journey and being with us, encouraging us, and supporting us. Thank you all so much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shrimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Thank you. Okay, Gopi ji had a question.
Yes, Prabhu. Mataji is saying in chapter 2, it states that the super soul fulfills the desire of the atomic soul as one friend fulfills the desire of another. The bird metaphor. What kind of desires does it mean?
Nityo nityanam chetanas chetanam eko bahunam yo vidadati kaman. That the super soul is the singular eternal, and the living entity, the spirit soul, they are plural eternals. And the singular eternal fulfills the desires of all plural eternals. And the desires means all sorts of desires, material and spiritual. So the super soul actually want to fulfill the spiritual desires, but because there aren't any, he's forced to facilitate the material desires. But even while doing those, fulfilling those material desires, Krishna creates a channel such by which, even after getting those material desires fulfilled, the person finds oneself incomplete, inadequate, dissatisfied, and then wonders why. Even after fulfillment of all of those desires, why am I still having that vacuum? Maybe there is something else which I should desire. And that's when Krishna sends a devotee or one of his agents in his life, in his or her life, and injects or impregnates the desire for bhakti or spiritual desires. So ultimately, those are the desires which are based on truth. So material desires, even if they are fulfilled, we are not fully filled. We are still empty. Because material objects cannot touch the soul, just like oil and water, they are immiscible. They can't mix. So matter and spirit, they can't mix. Even the harder we try for to squeeze out something, some pleasure from matter, the more frustrated we become. And therefore, Krishna in this chapter only, he says the happiness in mode of goodness, like it appears to be poison in the beginning, but it becomes nectar in the end. Whereas happiness in the mode of passion, it appears to be nectar in the beginning, but it becomes poison in the end. And any intelligent person, yehi samsparsha bhoga dukha yona evte adi antavanta kaunte na teshu ramte buddha. Any intelligent person knows that this, like the serpent is cool to touch. It appears to be very soothing and cool and soft to touch, but then immediately the serpent bites and there is poison and there is death. So any intelligent person won't touch a snake, right? So one won't engage or indulge in activities which give pleasure in the mode of passion, which is through contact of senses and sense objects. So even if one fulfills that desire, one becomes grief-stricken. And therefore, in the long run, one comes to a state where when one desires spiritual perfection, and those desires, fulfillment of those desires, fully fill us with love of God, and that's what Krishna wants to give us. The greatest treasure is love of God. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question.
I think, if I may add, Prabhu, there's this. I think Braj Bihari Prabhu used this I think this quote, the quote goes this way. It says, "फितूर होते हैं हर उम्र में जुदा, खिलौने माशुका रुतबा और खुदा."
Oh, come again.
फितूर होते हैं हर उम्र में जुदा,
Hmm.
पहले खिलौने माशुका रुतबा और फिर खुदा.
Oh, last में खुदा.
So thank you very much, Prabhu. Would you want to take another question, or
Can we take it the next time? Because I have to go somewhere, and then we'll take it next time. Gopiji, you can save this question. Then we will take it in the next session.
thank you very much, Prabhu, on behalf of the audience and me. We are very grateful to have
Thank
this
you,
podcast and your
Gopinath.
suggestions.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.